Hi, I'm your host, Bree Wild, and this is Marquee Memories. Here we sit down with your favorite artists to talk about their top concert memories as fans. Today's guest is a singer-songwriter channeling the style and sounds of a bygone era. Preparing to release his second album, Love, 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 please welcome Stephen Sanchez.
Hey. Hey.
So your debut album was a concept album.
Yeah.
This one is kind of like all you.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons of that? Is it more intimidating? More vulnerable?
Honestly, it's gotten a lot more. It's been very difficult, I think. Just because it's so easy, I feel like there's a nice filter you can kind of throw in front of yourself, and there's a bit more story to be told that you can kind of fabricate. And a conceptual record, with the first record, we were doing the troubadour thing, and it was very like, this is the character and this is the essence of that character and the suaveness. And I think that was also really difficult too, because it was like, this isn't me. Yeah. And I'm playing somebody that isn't me, really, And now this is just our take on a pop record with everything stripped back, as far as the character stuff goes, which is nice. Yeah.
But it's thematically love, 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 so.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have two songs now, Until I Found You and Sweet Love, that people call timeless. Yeah. How does one create a timeless song?
I don't know.
You've done it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think anybody, I hope no one feels this way. I definitely don't feel this way. I don't think there's any attempts at making anything timeless. I think I just know that I don't want to make something that feels like it's, sitting in a place that is following a trend or like trying to, I don't know, just be as accessible as humanly possible to everybody. And I think that's, I don't know. I think a lot of music is that. I think, it's a lot of the same, I guess blueprint of like, this is what works. And even on social media, like, this is what works. And I've never been attracted to that. And I actually struggle with that and have a hard time with that as an artist, just not wanting to do the things that are like, this is the blueprint that works, because there's really, those songs, Until I Found You in particular, is like an example of like, this wasn't following anything. It was very much doing its own thing. And it like kind of raised its hand and everybody grabbed it, which is awesome. So I have no idea,
You were introduced to this style of music, though, through going through your granddad's record collection. Is that right?
Absolutely. There was like such an ingrained, like, this is an homage to all of this music that I grew up loving. The cover, the songs, the style, from country music sounding to like then rockabilly sounding to then ballad sounding. We kind of hit everybody at once. And yeah, I was all inspired by that. It's like so ingrained in that. And now it's more like carrying the essence of that and bringing that into a totally different sound that feels more accessible, but still being, try not to follow anything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you do a lot of covers in your set because, they fit so well with, your style. Have you ever come across any like older songs that lyrically you're like, wow, that didn't age well? I was just wondering.
For like old songs that,
yeah.
Like,
it's like the time when we all of us suddenly collectively realized, like, baby, it's cold outside. A little creepy.
Yeah, that one feels like so funny. That's such a, I don't know. I feel like nowadays, like, anybody's like forcing a thing on something, they're like, this is offensive now.
Yeah.
Like, but there's also songs like She's a Lady. Mm-hmm. Like, she's got, it's hard. I think it's just like the framing of the words, like, she's got style, she's got taste. She's a girl who knows her place. She's a lady. But it's also like, she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
Whatever place she wants to be in.
Maybe a slightly different interpretation of it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's all that music is, just an endless stream of interpretation until it really is, which I feel like now is like very much on the nose.
Yeah.
In your face. Like, this is exactly what this song is. We're leaving no mystery.
Yeah.
Nothing. We're just saying it as it is, which can be good and terrible.
Do you want to leave a little bit of mystery there, or do you want people to know exactly what you're talking about?
So I don't want to tell anybody like what to do or like what this like is, exactly all the time. I think there's some stuff that like I believe in and I'm going to be straight up about it. I won't be mysterious in like my beliefs or anything like that. But I think when I'm sharing an experience, I'm not going to be like, this is exactly the experience you should be having as well. It's more like, oh yeah, this is my experience and here you go. Like,
hope it hits.
Do with this whatever you want, interpret it however you want. And yeah.
So when you discovered this music, what, it was just like you digging through your grandparents' stuff, or like was it you heard a song that they were playing? Like how were you introduced to it? Indoctrinated to
Indoctrinated, yeah. I guess that's like a really great way to say it. First, before anything, before like the music even gets anywhere, like my parents were super in love too. And my grandpa now, he has dementia and like, they're getting to a place in their life where, they're looking back on all this time, and they're being reflective about the times that they've had. And I think they've always kind of been that way. And they've always kind of kept that candle lit. I've grown up seeing them dancing together and that
they're
being
in your
to
music
old
video.
music. Yeah, they're in the music video dancing together. And that was really amazing. Yeah, for Sweet Love, like having them be, forever captured in that video and like doing the thing that they've always done that we all grew up watching them do, and then to like get to share that with the world feels very special because that had such an influence on, discovering what love was, and definitely the music, that kind of followed later. I was like,
so the life experience first and then the music.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's always the case, with being an artist. I think is just, sharing experience and like living life first, and I try and make a point to do that and not just like write haphazardly. I think a lot of artists like will write 50 songs and be like, we have like 50 songs. Like, this is our process. And that's a great process. But for me, I'm like, I wrote a song this month, and then like next month, maybe I'll write another one. But if not, then it'll be the next month. And
right.
But yeah, as far as the music goes, like definitely discovering that and then bringing that to them and being like, what is this? Like, what is this music? Like, what is this cover, this sleeve? It was always the beauty of it first before the music came. It was always something before the music. Like the sleeves were painted and the cursive on it and the titles of it, and I was
very tangible.
Yeah, it was just like so weird. It was like sticking out like a sore thumb, in the same way we're like watching my grandparents like out of nowhere get up after eating and start dancing slowly together. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it's kind of that odd thing that then pulls you into like the depth of that, which is the music and the lyrics and the meaning, and yeah.
Shall we now get into some of these memories?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Turnstile, Pinnacle, Nashville 2025. My fiance and I were celebrating I think we were just celebrating like being in love, to be honest.
Just celebrating.
We like are on endless dates. I mean, 99% of our time spent together is like doing something together.
So this was a date.
Very intentional. Yeah, like we were never ending daters all together. And we went to Turnstile because we fell in love with this band and the music and everything. And it's so funny too, because like they're very much in this like hardcore pop space, like very like experimental space and very digestible space too, like very, very great music and melodies and lyrics. And it's so funny that we're into that too. It feels like such a niche part of our, lineup of, stuff that we love to listen to. Yeah. And anyway, we drove there and like 65 Mustang, we got cassette in there. We're driving down the freeway, we're like a little late and we're like rushing to get there. And I remember we got a drink and we were like sitting top floor to watch the pit do what the pit does. Cause we're not really like,
not pit people.
We're not pit people, okay. But we want to watch the pit. We want to see it all happen. And so we were sitting up there. It's just us. And it was just so fun. She's just like, she's the greatest person to go to a concert with because she's so unhinged and is like she's singing, I think it's Holiday. And she's like, I want to celebrate. And this is like just jumping up and down, singing and everything. And it was just so fun to like watch her watch a show. And it was just the best night. that we had. It was so fun. Our friends were in the pit and they're filming us from up there and we're filming them from down there. And it was just an amazing memory. And then we just drove home and we were just singing the song like in the parking garage and everyone's screaming the songs. And it was just so fun. It was like the first time I felt like a huge fan again, like later in my 20s, you know? And that was really exciting. With somebody, like to share that with somebody. You know, that was very cool.
I'm sure in a few years you'll be like, remember that show?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. Every time we have something, it's like, this feels like a memory we're going to look back on and be like, do you remember when we did that? And like, it just pops out of nowhere and we're like, holy crap. Like, yes, like that was so special. It was really, really special.
Turnstile in Nashville. Was that the show Haley Williams turned up at or no?
Yeah, she was there. It was so awesome. So sick. I also saw, there was a show in Nashville, Becca Mancari, and she brought out Haley Williams at like the Basement East, which is like a 500 cap room, and then brought out Brittany Howard, and then brought out somebody else, and they're just like right there. It's so sick.
God, that must be such a great place to see shows because it's constantly full of like surprise guest stars.
It's an unreal place. I love Nashville. It just feels so good to be able to like share in that stuff with somebody. You know, it's just awesome. I love it. It's great.
You saw them again in Paris?
We saw them again in Paris. We were celebrating our 1-year anniversary and we went and saw that show. And we like grabbed a beer, grabbed some candy, and yeah, we were just like, I mean, the room was like electric. It was like we were just vibrating in the room. It's just so fun. It's just like awesome. I just feel like, I don't know. It's just, I feel so connected to that space with her. You know, it just feels like I'm just Joe Schmo loving a concert. And like, you know, I'm not even thinking, because I feel like before I was thinking like going to shows, oh, I wish I was up there playing. I wish I was singing. And this was just like, God, I'm just so glad to just be chilling here. And it's awesome. Like
I'm glad to be this part of this experience.
Yeah, like I'm such a fan. Like it feels so good to be a fan. And I feel like some musicians like make you wish that, I think for artists, like I wonder if other artists feel this way. Like some artists that you go see, like you wish you were up there like playing and stuff. And then some artists you see like really make you feel like a fan again. You know, and you're like, God, I love music. And like, this is why we love music and why we want to do shows, and like it makes you dream again. You know, I love that kind of show.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm okay not being up there for this.
Yeah, like I like so want to be in the crowd for this. Like I would much rather be here and be a fan than like, you know, be in the dream space like, I miss playing shows for myself again.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah, I love when a show does that. It's like takes that all away.
Yeah, that's like being in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. It just strips us back to like before we started doing any of that. So it's really nice.
How did you discover Turnstile? Like when?
Well, Devi, my fiance, she was listening to them years before, and then she was like, Turnstile's got a new record out. And I was like, who's Turnstile? And then she's like, we got to listen to it together. And then she listened to it without me, and it was like a big deal. I was like, no. And then I listened on my own, and I was like, oh my God. And it took a couple listens. I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh my God.
It's a grower.
Oh my God. Like, this is like unbelievable. Yeah.
Nice.
So it was great.
Cool. She's responsible then for that.
She's responsible now. Thank God for New Music Friday for that. That's great. Yeah.
Shall we go to Lord Huron?
Lord Huron, Pier 17, New York, 2021. There was a time where like I couldn't, like I had like a debit card and I couldn't even buy like a can of soup and stuff. I literally remember like going to the grocery store and like wanting to buy a can of soup and like not being able to buy a can of soup because my card declined. And I was like, oh my God. And then I remember years later, fast forward, and now I'm like playing music. I got managers and I'm like, I'm going to go to New York and see my favorite band that I have never been able to see. I was listening to them all through high school. Now I'm out of high school. I'm like living on my own. I'm like, I'm going to buy a ticket to New York. So I bought a plane ticket. And I was like, holy crap. I just spent $400 on a plane ticket. This is awesome. And then I was like, I'm going to buy the tickets. And I bought the tickets and I was like, oh my God. Like I bought my own tickets and I was able to buy them for both nights, not just one night. And
it was a doubleheader show?
It was a doubleheader show. Okay. Yeah. And then I was like, I got to get a place to stay. So I bought a hotel and I was like, oh my God, I bought my own hotel. And I think it was just this moment. I was like, man, like I get to like feel like I can actually be a part of that thing in a place that's far away, and then get to go to a city for the first time really. And like,
was that your first time in New York then?
It was like my second time. First time it was like in the middle of COVID and like everything was shut down. So the experience was like,
doesn't count.
Whatever. Yeah. So this was like my first time being there. And I just remember like getting to that show And I brought my vinyl with me, like that I had for like years that my ex bought for me when I was in like the 8th grade. And it was just so surreal, like getting to see them. And I knew every song. And I just felt like such a fan, like to be able to play music, but to know somebody else's song, like from every record front to back, is just such a special experience. And it was just so awesome. And I was with my team who I was just meeting for the first time. And I think like it was nice to be able to, you know, have them get to see like the
You being a
passion for
fan.
music. Yeah, just to be the fan. Like, you know, I think that's a very humanizing thing. Like to be able to be like, oh yeah, like we're all just fans of music. We just love music. We just either want to be a part of it in the space where we're appreciating somebody else making it, or we want to make it ourselves and like present it and like witness other people appreciating it. And it was just so special. It was such a special show. I was just like losing my mind at the show.
So if it's 2 nights, what were the distinction between the 2 nights? Were the set list different?
Yeah, first night was like Strange Trails. God, is it their sophomore album? Yeah, the sophomore album. Strange Trails front to back. And then it was Vide Noir, 3rd album front to back. And then second night was like first album front to back. And then I'm mixing this up actually. It was second album front to back, and then recent album, the 4th one front to back. And then the next night was first album, 3rd album. It was awesome. It was just like.
And you knew all of the albums.
I knew all of them. I knew every song. It was so fun. There's never been a time again in my life where I've like known every song and I'm like singing every word, and I'm like playing guitar and I'm like copying what he's doing on stage, or like watching him do it. And then we're playing our own show the next week, and then I'm like, I'm gonna try that move, that like spin guitar move he did. Like that's awesome. Like I love that.
Nice.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it just made more of an experience that you like decided to travel there and see it, and you knew every word to every song. It felt like you got your money's worth.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it meant so much just because I did a project in middle school, and it was about how like things like, you know, things around us like sensory wise like affect the brain. And so I did my project based off of this song because it was like moving me so much. First time I listened to Lord Huron, it was The Night We Met. It was like The Ghost on the Shore. It was like these songs. I was like, I'm gonna just go and like present these songs, and I'm gonna be like get everybody to feel it. And no one like reacted to it. They were like, whatever. And I was like, man, like I want to make people feel that way though. Like the fact that like I was feeling that, and I wanted to like share that, you know, and like get them to feel exactly what I was feeling, and like the, you know, static in your chest and like the chills on the back of your shoulder that you get when you listen to a song for the first time. You're like, oh my God. Or like you're so silent listening to it, and you're so locked in that you like forget to breathe. Yeah. You know, and then you realize like, oh yeah, I got to breathe again, you know? And yeah. And I just think like to be able to like feel that then, and then to be able to do it as an artist later in life, and then to be able to go and hear those songs live for the first time, and to know every one of them, and to be like taken back, you know, there in your 20s, and then go back to when you're in the 8th grade, you know, and feel the weight of that all over again is like, it was
an album
awesome.
playthrough is unique too, because then you get to sort of experience the show in the same way that you listen to the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it must bring up a lot of memories.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, walking around my high school, walking around my middle school, you know, thinking about some girl that broke my heart, or like, you know, being on a plane, like being unsure about who I am or what I'm doing in the position that I'm in, or yeah, it's just awesome.
How did you discover Lord Huron?
I was, man, that's a great question. I think it might have been that TV show, the 13 Reasons Why show.
Oh, okay.
But also like more on YouTube as well, like so much YouTube. But I remember like seeing the song like, or hearing the song attached to something visual too. And it was like such a moment where this dude lost his friend who was like also like someone that he loved as well, more than a friend. And then to be at a dance by himself, and this song came on, and he's just like thinking about her. And then all his friends like wrapped around him, and I was like, oh my God, like what a moment, you know? And I just think music's so powerful in that way, you know, to be able to bring you back to a place where it kind of like breaks you down all over again, and gets you, like it forces you back into a feeling that maybe you don't want to be in. But it's like, it's good therapy. It's
Yeah.
like, it's very confronting and it's awesome.
That's one of my favorite ways to discover music was through TV and like just the perfect song for the perfect scene.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like it's as prevalent as it used to be.
Yeah, no. It's almost like the 80s, like everything was like a soundtrack.
Right.
In the 80s, it was like, this song is like huge because of this movie.
Right.
And like, you know.
Now it's harder. You have to like dig for it. It's like a rare moment, I feel like, when you find those.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think literally that show like exploded that song.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But yeah, so much music.
Have you seen them since?
Oh my God. I've seen them a couple times since. When I was in San Diego, I went and saw them. I drove from LA to San Diego to see them in an Uber.
No, what?
I Ubered to San Diego, which took like 2 hours. Insane.
I guess as a like sort of side question for that, like what would you like your music to be a soundtrack to?
I just want it to be like the first thought like someone has when they're like, oh, let's just dance together real quick. And then they're just like this, like, let's put this on, you know, or when they get in the car and they're going on a road trip, you know, with somebody that they're like, here, like, play something. And they're like, oh, dude, yeah, let me put on this album.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of I just want to be a part of moments for people, I think, more than anything. You know, I don't care about much else. I just care that it's like, because it's the same in my own life. Like, I just want to apply music to my own life to like make even more special a moment that I'm sharing with somebody. And I would like the same. I'd like that to be my only legacy, is just to have that.
I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories already about
Yeah.
What's the best one you've heard so far?
This guy was telling me that I met yesterday, actually. It was really sweet. He was like, dude, I was talking to my crush and I sent her Be More, you know, to let her know that's how I feel about her. And I was like, that is exactly what I want to happen every time. Because I used to do that too. Like in high school when I had a crush, I'd just like send a song. I'm like, oh,
check it out.
You know, make sure you check out the lyrics of the song also, you know, and like, I think, yeah, I hope people do that. That's all I really hope. If I'm wishful for anything, it's just like, yeah, people like listen to a song like, man, that's such a good thing to tell somebody. I'm just going to send that so that they think that I'm telling them that, you know?
You're a tool for those who are deep in crushes.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, nice. Deep in the crush or in the heartache or whatever.
Shall we go to Briston, Maroney?
Sure. Briston, Maroney, Marathon Music Works, Nashville, 2021. Marathon Music Works is also the weirdest venue in Nashville ever. It's just like a big warehouse and there's like a stage there. It's like a big box and
no ambiance.
No ambiance in the slightest. And yeah, it was so weird. I remember we used to, when Nashville had a lot of these really smaller venues open, a lot of them got shut down because of COVID, you know, but there was like Cannery Ballroom and like, you know, I can't remember the names anymore. It's like crazy. But I used to go with this group of friends all the time. It was a ginormous group chat of like 25 people. And we just send shows that we love that were coming to town, small shows, our friends playing. It's actually met the whole band. It was like
nice
at one of those things. I was going to mosh, you know, in the front row. The group chat was called Mosh Masters, and we text and we'd go show up, and that's how I met everybody and became friends with them and ended up in that group. And then at this show, it was like the last time I really did it with them, and it was at that show, and we all like moshed around. We're young, we were like shirts off, like it's so hot in the pit. It's like summertime, and
so you were a pit person.
I was a pit person, not like for years. So those days are over now. Yeah. I'm also like throwable too. I feel like I don't like. I'm such a weight that someone could literally like huck me like a football. I feel like if they really wanted to, but
fair.
Or if I jump too hard, like I'm like floating a little bit. You know?
Yeah. The crowd will take you.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was just a really special time to be able to like again connect with people and sharing something that just like feels pretty thoughtless while also being very intentional, just jumping around, being together, and then looking at it, I'm like, that was awesome. Like music makes you feel that way. And I think that's really special. And yeah, it's cool. It's very, very cool.
Have you played any of these places that you have seen cool
We never
shows
played
at?
Marathon. We haven't played Pinnacle yet.
So what is like your Nashville bucket list for you? Like what are you hoping to play in Nashville personally?
Oh man. I mean, as far as venues go,
Mhm.
we kind of did it. I feel like I've had like, I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
Like in terms of like dreams and stuff, like I'm having to like come up with shit now. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I want that now. You know, I feel
feel good.
really content. Yeah. I think like
That's a good attitude.
I'm getting to this place more and more now. And I've tried to dip into that place where I'm like, oh, I need this to like to feel assured that I'm an artist, that I like belong in this space. And I just think it's all just a crock of whatever. Like,
Yeah.
who cares? Like, you know, we've gotten to play, you know, the Ryman, for instance. And the guys and I, you know, being in Nashville together, the only reason that was special because we were doing it all together. Like, it wasn't
Okay.
even the fact that, like,
That is a historic venue. Right?
yeah, it wasn't even the fact that it was a historic venue and, like, there were all the people there. And that's great. And that adds to it, you know? But it was more like, man, like, we all get to share in that together. Really, like, the root of it, the emotions, the crying that comes from that is just that we got to do that together. And we got to feel that together. And I think, like, you know, for me, I don't need any more than that. You know, when I go home, like, I'm going home and someone that loves me, my friends, my fiance, like they could care less if I have a Grammy or if I got nominated for one or if the show is sold out or if we played Bridgestone Arena in Nashville or, you know, MSG in New York or if I, you know, clashed elbows with so-and-so or if they like said my name first before I introduced myself. Like,
Yeah.
none of it matters. Like, you know, at the end of the day, like it's not something that, you know, I need. So I think if there's a dream now, I guess it's just like, hopefully we just get to do more things that allow us to have those like moments together,
Nice.
you know? Cause I think, yeah, that's the only way that we'd be able to get to have those like, oh, hey, we get to share in that feeling together. And I guess I just want more of that. More than anything, is just to feel that stuff with them together.
Like things are going really well. I would like them to keep going well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair. Cool. Thank you for sharing these memories.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you're busy getting ready for your next album to come up, but do you have any shows coming up as a fan that you're looking forward to?
I bought tickets for March of this year to go see Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. And that is like an unreal band. Like it's like a old, like back in the day, like the 60s.
Okay.
This dude Herb Alpert sang on some songs, but like is mainly like a trumpet guy with like a lineup of guys. I don't even know what that's called. Like a bunch of trumpet dudes, a bunch of horns players.
Musical collective sort of
Very,
situation.
very, very good. Like there's that song that you probably heard. It's like the
That sounds familiar.
like Ladyfingers or This Guy's in Love with You. Have you ever heard that song?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. He's like an old school guy. He's awesome. But if you're watching, you probably know that song because you've seen it on TikTok and someone's like, look at this view. It's amazing. Like it's the best view I've ever seen. It's a sunset or whatever. And, you know, but very excited to see them. And that's probably it.
How did you find out about that show? Like,
I just look up like, are they still alive? Do they play shows? Like if they're playing shows, can I see them? Cool. I wanted to see Paul Anka, but he's gone. He's gone.
You covered one of his songs, right?
Yeah. He's a great dude. Great guy. But yeah, that's about it. I'm excited to do that just because I get to go with someone I love, which is awesome.
Nice. Thank you for sharing these memories with me today.
Of course.
And looking forward to Love, Love, Love.
Thank you so much.